I'm going straight to business. Time is up. Time is fast spent. 7:26. So
Welcome
let's shoot it. Ready?
to life.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the press, people in Radio Land, it's an amazing opportunity to sit with you to discuss the national envelope that is projected at 1.21 billion. It's actually 1.4 billion, but 200 and something billion of that money was placed on an off-budget expenditure. That's money coming in from lending agencies like the ODA. A total of 300, a little over 300 million, but 312 million is anticipated. That's why you see 72 million of that money reflected under the budget. It's budgetary structure, but off budget, they have about 200, a little over 200 million. But there is something that's important. I want to firstly go and look at a lot of these institutions that I've been referring to. In the budget note, the president said under this approach, every dollar in the budget is tied to a purpose, a program, and a measurable outcome. It is no longer just about spending, it is about impact. Ladies and gentlemen, you agree with me that many of the institutions I'm about to call add nothing, little or nothing to the budget. If the budget is about impact as alleged, then I'm sure many of you will begin to ask, some of these institutions wouldn't even know about it. What do they even do? So I've been able to compile a total of 37 institutions that take so much money out of the budget. And as we go through the analysis, bear with me, you will see that monies that's supposed to be spent on health, education, is spent on institutions that bring absolutely nothing. Some of you will be surprised that we still give money to National Housing Bank, even though National Housing and Savings Bank, it's not operating, $50-something thousand. And you will see that as we go along, lots of our money is just being wasted on all kinds of structures. I've been of the opinion, to start with, if you say the money that is spent is no longer just about spending, but about creating outcome, then I'm asking, what does Ministry of Commerce actually contribute to the national budget, except that it is an institution that provides IPD and what have you? If you want to trade information, you can't get it out of those guys. National Insurance Corporation of Liberia, who are they really insuring? Liberia Industrial Free Zone Authority, what do they really do? National Bureau of Concessions, Liberia Special Economic Zone Authority. And the truth is, let's take it. The reason why our performance on the Millennium Challenge Cup was the way it was, because if you went to the Ministry of Labor today and you ask them how many people are employed in Liberia, they can't give you that number. So the Ministry of Labor has become a court. So we should just put it on the judiciary instead of having a Ministry of Labor, because the only number you're going to get out of the Ministry of Labor is going to be the issue of how many foreigners are in this country. Why? Because they're getting $3,000 per foreigner. So now that's a big deal. And the person even providing that certification is a foreign company. Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. Seriously? Let's be serious. This is money that can go to major institutions. And as I go along, you'll find out, take places like Grand Bassa. The entire Grand Bassa health system gets only 100,000 out of this entire budget. The population of Grand Bassa, more than almost 300,000 people. And this is serious. I will tell you another thing. National Housing and Savings Bank, like I said, National Transit Authority. Every individual person that has a bus on the road charges, and that charge replaces the bus. Every year we give NTA money. It is a government institution. We should be able to let NTA go, let it survive by itself, let the transportation market be a competitive infrastructure, instead of spending all of government money on things that bring nothing back, and then we say we're serving the people because NTA charge anyway. They make money. National Housing Authority. Face it, the last time we put one house in the ground was several years ago. I think the last public housing was under Madam Sirleaf, I think somewhere up here, and those have been sold. Why do we still fund a National Housing Authority? Cooperative Development Agency, Liberia Agricultural Commodity Regulatory Authority, Rural Renewable Energy Agency, Liberia Water, Hygiene and Sanitation Commission, Forestry Training Institute, Agriculture Industrial Training Bureau. These things don't do anything, but it takes so much money. They take millions of dollars out of the budget. National Veterans Bureau. Just the other day, the veterans were even, people were complaining, look, we need to have a clear program. Every year, the money we spend on veterans, if we have pumped it into a few businesses to create employment for them, they will be better employed than the money we give to a Veterans Bureau. National Commission on Disabilities. Just the other day, the guys were in the street complaining that the guy that is there is somebody else and they don't have a representation. If we took this money and put it into a proper structure that will provide employment for them, they will not be on the streets begging. And under my administration as president, we will properly repurpose our resources for the best outcome as indicated in this verbiage. What the verbiage says, it says one thing, but in reality, it does another thing. National Food and Feed Safety Authority. What is that? I'm sure you guys are wondering. People are walking the streets hungry, and we have a National Food and Feed Safety Authority. Then we also have a National Food Assistance Authority. Agency. The National Food Assistance Agency was established years back when there was some level of assistance rendered, but those institutions still get some kind of money. National Medical and Dental Council. Why are we funding that? Fund these things through the Ministry of Health, and we'll be done with that. And even the Ministry of Health, you will see when we open these budgets, we'll compare the Ministry of Health budget with the EPS budget. We'll compare the Ministry of Education budget with the Executive Management budget, so you can see who actually is the beneficiary of this budget. Law Reform Commission. What law are they reforming? Absolutely no law is being reformed. All these years, we sit here, absolutely nothing happens. Then Human Rights Commission. I'm sure the people whose rights are being violated every day are asking themselves, is there a Human Rights Commission? Then Liberia National Commission on Small Arms. The state resources are just being spilled like drunken sailors. That's how the government spends money. Then we have National Security Council. For what? National Center for Coordination of the Response Mechanism. What is that? Independent Information Commission. Let's be frank. Then you have the GAC. Then you have the Internal Audit Agency. As president, let Internal Audit Agency go, strengthen GAC, and change our entire audit mechanism. Every year you hear, oh, this person stole this, this person stole this. I have been of the view, strengthen GAC, let GAC transition from post-audit to risk. So in our way, GSC begin to de-risk environment. So within institutions, you're going to have risk officers that will properly advise on budgetary allocations instead of the damage being done, the expenses incurred, then you're looking for somebody, and then we have to allocate money to the Ministry of Justice and be subjected to a whole long legal process that take years when that money can actually be for development. And this is against the background of the verbiage stated in the budget that the money is not just being spent like before. Public Procurement and Concessions Commission, it exists and everything is happening. But we had GSA yesterday and there was centralized procurement. All of these dynamics are layers and layers of bureaucratic infrastructures that give money to people and bring nothing. Then we have National Disaster Management Agency. I'm sure that many places in this country where there has been disaster and nobody has come, the only thing you hear the people say, we're calling on the international community to come to our aid. We'll be wondering, is there a National Disaster Management Agency? Why are we giving them money? Bureau of State Enterprises, you have another one called Governance Commission. What do they do? And they take millions of dollars. Governance Commission take more than $3 million. Doing what? Ministry of Information. A few guys that sit there and talk nonsense. They don't even understand what they're saying. When you say something critical, they come to the airways and just talk nonsense. Nothing they even understand. I don't even think, sometimes when they're talking, they spit even dry from their mouth. I think many times you journalists just carry them some water so they can help themselves. Liberia Institute of Public Administration. Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. That's why I'm dwelling on this ministry, because the reality is, if you look at President Bwaka, he has the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, which takes $15 million, and we are not analyze that. Then you have the EPS, which only for Presidential Affairs, which takes another $9 million. That's about $24 million out of the national budget that Bwaka alone consumes. We're going to that analysis. Institutions that do not need government funding. Liberia Electricity Corporation, $50 million this year. Why? Everybody here pay current bill. Why LEC, like in many countries, you have private power authority that are functioning, that work, and the tariff is even lower than Liberia. Why every year we're pumping millions of dollars into LEC, and guess what? LEC contributes nothing to the national budget. Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation, nothing to the national budget. We go into another section of the budget, grounded in the arrest agenda, and I'm quoting here, for inclusive development. This budget reflects a government that listens to its citizens. That's what they are saying. Learns from their lived experiences and leads with purpose. That's what the government is saying. It integrates gender response planning and budgeting to ensure that women, men, and youth are equally considered in every policy and investment. It embeds climate change adaptation to protect our communities and natural resources, and it strengthens performance management systems so that public institutions are held accountable and not just for spending, but for results. I'm sure these things that I just said runs counter to these declarations. So when you read these nice verbiages in these documents, you ask yourself, how come since 2023, we've never had a budget performance report? Because it is from the performance report that you will know that look, okay, the government actually collected this and it actually spent this, and this ministry and agency to whom this amount of money was given, that this ministry or agency actually did this expenditure or did that expenditure. And it creates a basis for performance. Should we keep our ministry? Should we keep this institution? That's what the budget performance does. It's a full detailed analysis of beneficiaries of the cash and what did they do with it. But in every respect, what happens? A new budget is being passed, no budget performance report has been provided, and we just sitting and it's business as usual. And that's why as I go further down, you will see and notice some of the lapses that we have. As a result of our spending, the Ministry of Finance, through the document, also recognizes that the Liberian dollar is expected to slightly depreciate modestly. There's not going to be a slight depreciation. It's going to be a high depreciation because they're going to print money again, reflecting structural pressures in foreign exchange market and rising import demand. This is a wonderful admission. Rising import demand. But this entire budget does nothing about dealing with rising import demand, as you will see when we go along. Absolutely nothing, no allotment to those institutions that will create jobs in any respect. There is something else that's going to shock you. GST currently is about 12%, but now they're transitioning from GST to VAT. VAT is the value added system. GST is the general sales tax. But don't forget, India had a VAT before, which was a higher amount. Then India transitioned to the American system of general sales tax, which is just a sales tax, which now India uses. We are moving for uniformity across Africa from GST to VAT. The final VAT figure will be 15%. So think about it. I import something through the port, I pay 15%. You buy 100 of that same thing from me, you pay another 15%. You sell 50 cartoons to another person, he pays another 15%. The VAT has, or the GST has a what? Multiplier effect. So that challenges income. In the last couple of years since the government came to power, it's never had any discussion on Hamanah's salary, even though that's what brought it to power. Like I said, we will restore your salaries. You haven't done that, but then you're increasing taxation. So we move from 10 to 12, and now we're moving to 13, ultimately 15% in this budget circle. So your meager income is going to support a government that doesn't care about you and only give $100,000 to your health facility. It will shock you. If you look at how much we're spending on curriculum development, $28,000 for the whole year. But then if you look, we're spending $300 and something thousand just to buy fuel and lubricant for the SSS. We'll go down to the budget. So this budget is all about Boyka himself. And you can see the allotment is so wanton. But let me not waste your time. Let me drive further down. The 94% as per the budget dynamics, 94.1% of this budget comes from GST, import tax, international trade. That's about 1.13. That's about 1.13 billion. So they have a shortfall of 72 million. So in their own budget, they've said that 76.7% will be spent on recurrent, which is about $929 million. So now, ladies and gentlemen of the press and people in Radio Land, you understand why I started off with the non-performing institutions. We're going to be spending $929 million of collected revenue on recurrent expense. Institutions taking money that brings absolutely nothing back. Every year, they just have those institutions, and they become opportunity for corrupt government officials to funnel money. So you see certain institutions are just going to have a rise. They will have a rise in this expenditure, rising, because all of those details are not in the budget. The budget presents the summary figures, but the detailed working sheet, they have it. So in the end, once the budget is passed, there are movements behind the scene that enable the massive corruption that we're talking about. Debt repayment. The government, as per the budget, owes about $2.7 billion as of September. 40% of that debt, 1.08, is domestically sourced. I've spoken to bank presidents. They are heavily burdened by this domestic debt. Some of this debt came from the past administration and administration before that. Some of it also came from this administration, where they've domestically borrowed from the banking institutions, and the rate of repayment is also low. This year, the government will be paying back $159 million, according to them, of that debt, because last year they said they were paying 60-something million back. They actually paid 30-something million. This year, they say they're paying $159 million, even though they should be paying about $300 million to the local lenders, but I doubt they're going to pay this because we have a historical precedence. So obviously, sometimes when you see liquidity issues at some of these banks, it's because they can't give you the bigger picture. The money they brought to invest in the economy has been sucked up by a very hungry government that uses the money to spend it on bureaucracy and few guys that will be insulting people that are saying something very, very important for the well-being of our country. There's an over projection. It will surprise you to note the $200 million that is included in the budget that takes it to $1.2 billion is an anticipation. It's an anticipation. They anticipate getting $200 million from Mittal Steel when the deal is signed. You know, the Mittal Steel deal has stalled. It stalled since year before the last, it stalled last year, and it could stall this year, right? So there is no guarantee that that's going to pass, but you reflect it in the budget. And there is something that's going to interest you as I go down. They took this entire inflow of $200 million and they placed it under something called PSRP. So that's where additional spend on education will come from. They took $81 million out of the core budget, the core revenue, to put it under the PSRP. I even have a problem with the definition of what they call PSRP, but I'm just bringing that to you. Then asset recovery. All of this noise about asset recovery, they anticipate getting $10 million for asset recovery, and it's also in this budget. That has raising it up to 10 million. You all know, if you accuse me of stealing, we have to go to court. And the court process takes years. So how are you now projecting that you're going to get $10 million on asset recovery process that just started? Maybe they will sell the $10 million property in Foya. I don't know who's going to go there to buy it. That Boyka is building that nobody wants to put it back in the budget. Who knows? I don't know. And maybe some of the other ones that Boyka been stealing to distract. He will fire other people, and he has his own stealing. So I don't know how can a rogue be firing a rogue. But again, this too is Liberia. So we have a situation where $7.5 million also anticipated. What they've said is that henceforth, if they sign a concession, you will pay 2% upfront on your corporate income tax, right? So that 2% upfront is dependent on signing. And these things go through all kinds of things. Just the other day, they brought Oranto. There were a lot of flaws. People started talking about that. They brought another company. There were another company for the road, I think construction. There were a lot of fraud. So all of these, and that one is a loan anyway. But these concessions like Oranto and some of the other people that have all these flaws, you're now saying you anticipate 2% from them, even though it hasn't gone through, but you're reflecting it in the budget. That swears the budget up to 1.2 billion, which clearly is not going to be realized. We have no yardstick to know whether we've realized the budget because we haven't done a budget analysis. You can't just look at a man and say the man is rich, because he has an expensive clothes. What if he borrowed our clothes? So in every respect, we need a budget performance, and we're encouraging our legislators to ensure that before a budget is passed, several things must happen. One, we must have a budget debate. Let it be a public hearing process of vested interest, different sectors, to make contributions to these allocations. It will surprise you to know. Kolahun has less than what? Let me look at the population. Less than, I think, 20,000 people. I have the note further down. And the allotment to Kolahun Hospital, because the finance minister is from Kolahun, is 110,000. Buchanan, Grand Bassa County has 100,000. All of these things flow. This year's budget, you have 2 medical institutions from Lofa County that's benefiting more than $1.4 million for their health center revamp. Most of the other counties are not so lucky. It's all going to one sector, even though it's a national envelope. So all of these things are contributing to some of the issues. Now let's look at SOE contributions. LPRC is contributing only $1 million to the budget. That's really sad. Only $1 million. MPA, with the managing director, according to what the Chinese people say, he's stealing from people and all that. MPA is contributing nothing to the budget. LEC, nothing. Every year, that's the story. We spend on LEC, they gave nothing. We spend on NPA, they gave nothing. And so that's it. And MPA in the past and now has been used for payment of all kinds of people. Like I said earlier, the core PSRP is 44 million, which is the public sector investment. So basically they have this 81 million, like I said earlier, that's going to come from the core budget. Then they have 200 million anticipated from the Mitasi inflow, which is not going to come anyway anytime soon. If the sooner they sign it, because they're still having a discussion with HPX and this and that. And so, as all of these polarities come together, it might stall for this year. But you take the $200 million and you're saying you're investing 280 something million in PSRP, but most of your anticipated inflow coming from asset recovery, it coming from CRT that hasn't even come yet. So the ones that you have collected that you show all, it's like you have your children. You take your salary, show that. And the children say, but daddy, you haven't paid our school fees. And you say, yeah, my uncle from America said he will send me money. When the money comes, then I'll pay your school fees. But they want to get in there, I got to drink my beer. That's what's happening in the budget. Then there is something else I want to bring to your attention. We're spending more than, in Liberia, it surprises me. We talk about poverty, we talk about this, but we spend money like drunken sailors. Like somebody's high on cushion, you get them 1 million. They will just go to a bar and this. How can we in a poor country like Liberia, where people you don't even have to go far. Usually people discuss these counties. I just want to discuss Montserrat County, just to start with. How can we be spending $515 million on salaries and recurrent, we spend on salaries, goods and services, and non-financial assets? $515 million. This is no small money. This is money people wouldn't even see in a lifetime. If you were to spread $515 million on the street, $100 bill, you can spread it from here to Ivory Coast. People just throwing the money away and they call themselves government officials. And the irony is, you see people that spend like drunken sailors when they leave government. You see them like they never had money before. They can't afford a driver. They ride keke. You can see even our own former president, Boyka. The man was vice president for 12 years. His budget was more than $24 million over the period. All right? He became non-president. He couldn't even pay his own medical bill. The man was like, he was dying. Today, The guy is even joking, puts his hand in his pocket. But that is what our country does. We pick the wrong people, we make them president, and then we say we expect results. And that's what we say to our people. Let's not do this again, because we actually deceiving ourselves. I want to give you an insight into what the PSRP expense is all about, so that you can have an idea of what the PSRP is all about. I need to just drill you through it quickly. It's on pages 26 to 28. So next time you have an opportunity to look at the budget, just look at pages 26 to 28. That's where the PSRP is, so you can have an idea of some of the things they say they're spending the money of the Republic of Liberia on. So let me just drill you through so you can have a deep appreciation. You may not know economics, but you will be able to understand what they're spending our money on. So let's look at some of the core PSRP. The national legislature, they're giving them $3.6 million. That's considered as public sector investment. The national legislature budget is $48 million. It jumped from the previous amount of 30-something million. But then they also giving them another $3.6 million, and they call it public sector investment. That's the thing that will create jobs for the thousands of young people that are graduating from university every year. The thousands of young people that go to trade school with the hope of adding value to themselves to get some kind of job to determine a path for their family. 3.6 million to people who don't even have a budget debate. They don't even discuss anything about the budget. It just so say one, so say all. And a few of them was telling me the other day that even this $360-something million rural fund budget that was discussed, the legislature, the House of Representatives didn't pass it. It just jumped to the Senate floor. It's interesting. Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs is going to get another $500,000 out of your PSRP budget. It's interesting. Let me open it up a little bit. So you don't have to go to economic school. The General Services Agency is going to get $2.5 million. I don't know what a GSA is going to build a factory that will provide jobs for people. I don't know. Then $1 million will go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, thereby taking a budget from $26 million to $27 million. Already, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs jumped from $22 million to $26, another $4 million. Then there's other $1 million that says PSRP. I don't know how they determine, because for me, public sector investment will be some level of partnership that creates some level of industry that guarantees jobs for our young people, so that the next young person that is employed in the private sector and not in the public sector. So our young children, when you ask them, what do you want to be? They will say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to work in a factory. But you ask a young child, I want to be president. I want to be representative. Because the only people that have money in our country are those kinds of people. It's interesting. But let's look at the PSRP budget more and more. Ministry of Finance and Development Planning gets $1.6 million out of that budget. Liberia Revenue Authority, $4.7 million. Then Ministry of Internal Affairs gets $34 million for PSRP. National Identification Registry gets $1 million. Monrovia City Corporation, $1.3 million. Painesville City Corporation, $400,000. Then we go down to Center for National Document and Record, $100,000. Land Authority, $1.2 million. Then we come further down. Judiciary gets $7.6. Then we get Ministry of Justice with $3.2 million, maybe prosecuting these cases for the anticipated $10 million. Is it? So if we spend $3.2 million this year to recoup $10 million, next year we spend another $3.2 million to recoup $10 million. So you owe me $5. I spent $200 in a court to collect $5 from you. Who's to pay here? So sometimes I don't understand. That's why we need to transition our approach. This archaic method of running government is what's killing us. It must go through some government bureau. Just the other day, we had land issues. Then we set up a private institution called a land authority. We still have land issues. But in other countries, when you reference those countries, then they have a problem. Kenya, if you want to buy land in Kenya, you want to buy a car, transfer a title, it's electronic, it's clear, and it works. In that way, you don't have land issue. I'm buying land from you. We're going to have our both pins. We'll go online at the same time. We open our pins, you send me information, I accept. The electronic document will show I accepted, and you will agree that you send me that, and it's closed up. We have not made one progress towards resolving land issue. The whole place is saturated with land issue, and we're still fighting. And still we're spending lots of money on all of these things. Human Rights Commission, I don't know what's the public sector. A PSI investment, 74,000. Then Ministry of National Defense, 500,000. We come down, PSRP, Ministry of Health, 8.5 million. John F. Kennedy Hospital, 2.1 million. Then we have Phoebe Hospital, 800,000. Then we have Jacksonville, 400,000. And we have Ministry of Youth and Sports, 4 million. When you total all this, there are other small stuff. When you total all this, it comes to $281 million. That's what government call public sector investment. How does that benefit you in any way? How does that add value to the media in this country? How does that create businesses that will advertise? How does that create those businesses that will advertise, that will make the media institution make more money? The more money the media institution make is able to hire competent people. We can bash the media. When the inflow of the media, you open radio station, you practically have to pay out of your pocket. It's a tight landscape. You open even online infrastructure, you can hire anybody because how many businesses are there to advertise? In other countries, there is so much media dollars. Why? Because there is some level of vibrancy. When the government spends money, it affects the economy. And let's face it, in our case, when the government spends money, the biggest beneficiary, what does government buy? Government buys cars, stationaries. Who are the biggest importers of cars? Foreigners. Who are the biggest importers of stationary items? Foreigners. So the money comes through the tax structure collected, and it leaves the country. And that's what we celebrate every year, and we say we have a budget. So when they have this budget and they do this, then they come back and say, oh, they want you to celebrate. Obviously, it's not going to work. Another thing I want to propose. You see, we have something called the Public Financial Management Law of Liberia. That law set a cap on borrowing. We can't borrow more than 60% of our GDP. But there is something else that we can do with that law. The legislature can modify that law to ensure that we don't spend more than 40% of collected revenue on our bureaucratic institutions. In that way, you're going to have 60% preserved for development and development initiative and a level of private-public infrastructure. In many countries, I sit around, I see many countries around Africa. I don't even want to go around the world. They have money in our budget for levels of private-public partnership. Let's even take America. Do you think America could not set up a weapons manufacturing company that is run by the American government? Who makes all of these big planes you see? Who makes all of the weapons? It is private companies that produces those weapons. Even you've heard they partner with people like Musk, right? And they use the private company. All of our things are so concentrated. We don't create a private-public infrastructure. So if we start to outsource a lot of our services, we'll create employment for our people. But everything, there's other ministry does say help. Health does this. This Ministry of Public Work does this. And all of these things, when you look, what does it do? It creates quite a lot of bottleneck. It creates a lot of inefficiencies, and the outcomes are difficult to measure. That's why budget performance is an issue. In America, in many other countries in Africa, when the budget is passed, millions of dollars go to the private sector. Millions of dollars go to the private sector. In one country that I'm on the Economic Council, they passed the budget. We allotted about $200 million for the private sector. And it was done through a private-public arrangement where the money was given to the central bank. The central bank then gave that money to the commercial banks. The commercial banks have specific instruction for onward learning. We realized one of the problems in our country was housing. People didn't have money for housing. So we set up a 10 years gap for lending. So if you went to the bank and took $20,000 to build your house, you have a specialized interest rate, even though the normal interest rate, and I'm not permitted to give you specific figure, the normal interest rate in our country is much higher. But if you took money for lending, for real estate, your lending rate was lower. So there became a real estate boom in our country, which created housing for more people. When you do that, what happens is that you create opportunities for your people. But all of our resources are just spent on government institutions. So the PFM law, if it is re-looked at and modified and set that structure, every year you will not have the opportunity for government institutions to just be increasing money. Every time there's additional money, then you increase it. The other thing we need to do, every year, what do you see? Our expenditure on recurring expense is high. Why don't we have a car policy? We have never been able to establish one. A car policy, simply put, can establish that, look, John Brown, you minister, out of your pay, we're giving you a car and we set a ceiling. We're not buying more than $50,000 car. Your car costs $50,000. Government is going to let you pay 60% of the value. 40% of the value comes from government. So what do? If the car is $50,000, we spread it over a 5 years period, which is the lifetime of the car, and we let you pay for the car. People have been asking the question of, what if you get fired after 6 months? It's simple. If you went to a used car dealer and you pay on a car, anywhere in the world you pay on a car, if you can't pay the balance of the value, what happens? You forfeit the car. So if you serve for 6 months as minister, the value of that car that you're unable to pay, if you want the car, you pay up the value. If you're unable to, you forfeit it, it goes on to the next minister. So we'll not have a system where every new minister, every new assistant minister waits for the next budget year to put in for a car. And these things weigh on us, and it takes away key cardinal revenue collected for the country to be spent on the people and spent on bureaucrats. So you're always going to have issues in places like Nimba or Mitasi. Let's face it, if you are Mitasi, you do your own money, you pay your taxes to government. The money government is supposed to spend it in a way that the people in Nimba benefit. But all of that money, most of it is spent in a mansion, is spent in Monrovia, is spent on bureaucratic infrastructures, and then the people don't see the government. Who do they see? They see the mining infrastructure. So in many places in Africa, you have this challenge where when you mine in an area, it becomes a problem. We had a similar problem in one area we mined in Ghana, and we had to have an actual conversation with the community and try to rebalance some of the issues. But it creates a huge pressure, and it's basically because of the way money is spent. Let's look at some of the way money is spent. The speaker, what is he doing that he needs $1.8 million? I don't understand. Deputy Speaker, $1.4 million. The system is when you're at the table and the meat is being killed, I'm taking the head. You want to take the belly, take the belly. Then the government say, okay, we'll take the thigh and the stomach. The other person say, okay, we'll take this. That's just it. The House of Senate goes from $12 million to $16 million. The House of Representatives goes from $31 to $51 million. Of course, it's inclusive of the $3.6 million that I told you about. That is called PSRP. These kinds of things must stop if we want a better governance infrastructure. If we don't have a car policy, every year we're going to have these recurring infrastructure. And we need to transition from post-audit to risk so that we can actually understand how many computers are being used in office, because most of these things are buying computers and what have you, when that money could be spent on public housing. That money could be spent on public education. That money, when you go to other countries nearby, you go to Cote d'Ivoire, you go to Ghana, even right next to Sierra Leone, and you see public educational institutions. The other day, I went on some visit or some project in Winneba, and I visited the University of Winneba in Ghana. I told the driver to park, and I was just in the car, and I just shook my head. Hell, you don't come close. I'm not even taking you to Legon. I'm not even taking you to Kwame Nkrumah. These universities, the people spend seriously on the university. Why can't we do that for our own universities? LU doesn't have window. It hasn't had window for the last, 20 years. LU doesn't even have chair. It hasn't had chair for, I don't know how many. You have to take chair from one class to the other chair. Are we serious? And we say we're running a government. And we say we're preparing young leaders for the future. But we have people just getting on the money like we are drunken sailors. Let's look at some of the mockery they make of the educational system. Total allotment to education, 53 million. It sounds good. When you look at it, it sounds really good. But let's break it down. 37.9 million of that money is spent on salaries alone. Then let's break it down further. 8.6 million of that money on goods and services. This means there will be no chairs, teaching materials will not be available this year in many of the schools. Why? Let's look further. Out of this money of 8.6 million, out of this money of 53 million, 37.9 for salaries, the minister's office, and right there in the budget, gets $1.5 million. The minister of education in his office. So the speaker, the deputy speaker gets 1.4. The minister of education office get 1.5. Then general administration, the rest of the guys get 4.5 million, leaving only $1.3 million for basic and secondary education. Teachers' education gets 28K. Think about it, gentlemen. $28,000 for the whole year for teachers' education. Then we got Center for Curriculum Development, $20,000. But we should celebrate that, yes, they've given us a budget. They put these figures because many of our people are not economically inclined and don't have an accounting background and don't have the time to critically analyze these things. It's sad. If you have 20,000 for curriculum, you know what curriculum is. Yeah. Today, I'm sitting down wondering why I did amoeba in school. The other day, I asked my son teacher, why you should be wasting my time? Since I left school, I haven't seen amoeba. I wasn't doing science. Why are you wasting my time? But if we spend 20K for curriculum development in a whole projected so-called 1.2 billion that I call actually is a 900 million budget, then we're not ready yet. We're clearly not ready. But let's look at something. The PSRP allotment for education, like I said, $1.9 million on renovation and rehabilitation of schools. So if that money anticipated for MITA doesn't come, schools will not be renovated this year because that's $1.9 million. $1.8 million on expansion of school and school feeding. If that $200 million doesn't come, there will be no expansion of school. $500K for child one child program. So we're waiting for MITA $200 million and not the $900 million that we already know will collect out of the economy for us to buy chair for our children. But let's break down. 500,000. It sounds big. 500,000 divided by $25 per chair, that's 20,000 chairs. It cannot even feed Monserrato. And when we go, you will begin to understand that this whole budget is a joke and that these guys, if I have my chance, will have them arrested and we will hold them accountable for the kinds of damage they cause to this country, especially this unity party. Whenever they've been in power, they've just brought mediocres to lead our country. And these guys are good at talking. You know, they say empty drum makes the most noise. When they talk, you think they have some substance. When they present a document, it's so empty. You see nothing. And under the unity party governance, the country appeared to be a hopeless infrastructure. But let's do a comparative analysis. While Ministry of Education gets that, let's look at what the Ministry of State gets. $1.3 million on special operations services. 1.3 million. Whatever they want to do, special operations services. But we get 500,000 under the PSRP anticipated to come from a MITA 200 million to buy chairs for students. But Boyka doesn't have to wait. He's going to get $1.3 million for special operation. But why the old man will not jog? That kind of money is enough to make you jump up on your bed. $850,000 on special presidential projects. So even a Boyka won't buy a car for his girlfriends, it's all part of the special presidential projects. $361,000 for fuel and lubricants of vehicles. Ministry of State. $300,000 on celebrations. $300,000 on furniture and fixtures. This budget have shown where the government priorities are. It's not with education, not with health, it's for them. But let's go further. The total allotment to take care of the president and vice president is EPS, $9.1 million. And we'll go into the EPS budget so you can begin to ask them the hard questions. Ministry of State, 15.1. If you put this together, just the executive mansion with Bueka and his protection for he and Kun gets $24.2 million. This is outrageous. And when you look at the allotment to health and education, it's amazing. So let's look at the educational worker salary. Like I said, out of that budget of 53, they get 37.9 million educational worker salary. The total spend on education for 2024 is going to be 15.6. And the 15.6 million is less the anticipated inflow of $4.5 million anticipated from the Mitasi arrangement. So in essence, we're spending about $11.1 million on education this year, which is really sad. But let's look at an analysis of the EPS budget. The EPS budget, they're spending $6.4 million on salaries. It confuses me. You guys have friends in the EPS. They don't make $1,000. But even if every EPS officer was earning $1,000, it means that if you divide 1,000 by 6.4 million, it means you got 6,400 EPS personnel. It's bigger than the army. It's bigger than the national police. Why do you need 6,400 persons? So how much people in the EPS makes? It's a question that you need to ask. You see, these are the things to do. They will hide extra expenses in certain structures and make it look like the executive mansion budget is small or the Ministry of State budget is small, but then they hide it through these things. Why would salaries for the EPS be 6.4 million? Why? I really don't understand. If you took $1,000 salary, it means one EPS officer makes almost 10 times what a police officer makes. These are really critical issues. We urge the public to demand an understanding of the actual size of the EPS. Because the EPS need to protect the president, the first family, and the vice president and his family. So at most, you should have at least 200-300 EPS officers. Now here's the thing. Every other security agency contributes security. Police, army, all of them, NSA, all contribute a detachment to these people. So you have all of these structures. Why do you need to be spending all this money on EPS? There is no justification to be spending $9.1 million when education has no presence in the budget. Interestingly, $552,000 the EPS spends on fuel and lubricants, more than what is allotted for education. $353,000 for repairs and maintenance of vehicles, but we're spending $20,000 on curriculum development. God help Liberia. We spent $20,000 on curriculum development. We spent $28,000 for teachers training, but we spent $353,000 for repairs and maintenance, EPS vehicle. $552,000 for the fuel and lubricants. $600,000 for intelligence gathering. Just for the office of the president. But we spent $100,000 on the Buchanan Hospital in Grand Bassa County that services more than 100,000 people. So my intention here is to help you see that this budget is for the people that we put in government. When they collect the money, they sit down, they divide it out. Then they get up and buy 15, 35 buses, and the president now, he thinks he's made morale. You know, he drives around, he says, oh, the people should celebrate him. And the people say, look, we're not celebrating you because we know that you are no different from the people you are firing. Then we have another situation. We have another situation where, I will have to wrap up quickly, reminder of time because the line has to be open. We have another situation where you have $200,000 for special operations for the EPS. So the EPS 800K, but $1.3 million provided for basic and secondary education in Liberia. Like I said, do a comparison with the Ministry of Health budget. Grand Bassa County gets 100K. Government Hospital in Buchanan gets 200K for health. Redemption Hospital in Monserrado County gets $350,000. Gentlemen, let me divide $350,000 so you can see. $350,000, I'll try to wrap up quickly. $350,000 divided by 12 months, that's going to be $29,000 per month divided by 30 days. The Redemption Hospital has to spend $972 per day to provide health services. And don't forget, it is the largest referral health facility on this side of town. So it takes care of multiple districts, 17, 16, 14, 15, with millions of people because you have the largest block of people. And that's what they gave Redemption Hospital. It's a joke. I could go on and on and on in terms of these analyses. Of course, like I said, Foya has 20K inhabitants, the president from there. So Grand Bassa County and Foya gets the same $100,000. Then there is something called other compensations, which caught my attention. It jumped from $6.9 million in 2024 to $21.4 million in 2025. Now it's $25.6 million. I'm not sure what they're hiding through there. Ladies and gentlemen of the media and my people in Radio Land, this analysis is long, but because of time, we will do a short abbreviation. And we just want to say, to correct this, we're proposing the PFM law be modified and a cap be set on government expenditure. Other than that, even if we collect $5 billion, the legislature budget will jump to, say, $200 million, and they will have justification. The president budget will jump to, say, $300 million, and they will have all of the justification. This other institution will jump to this, and they will have all of the justifications. Each private radio station in this time is surviving. LBS get $1.9 million of government money, but the citizens can't talk on the radio station. You know, these are the things that are playing the waves. They want some abuse of power. And I just want to say to our people, as president of Liberia, you see the executive mansion? I will turn into a 5-star hotel. I don't need to be in such an elaborate infrastructure. It's been proven that you can run the executive mansion right out of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You can run the executive mansion out of a small place. Why do we need a whole Ministry of State just for presidential affairs? And it's a place where different people, all our need, look, even me now as CEO with more than 5,000 employees across Africa in multiple countries, I don't really have a special assistant. My laptop is it. I have different departments, different heads of different sections, and they work. Why do we need a president to have such elaborate infrastructure? The sooner we review this, the better the budget will begin to work for us and for the people. And if that doesn't happen, we're always going to have this situation. And that's why we're saying, ladies and gentlemen of the press, people in Radio Land, that we need to change the governance style of our country by changing the people who give power to. Thank you so much.
Freeman.
I'm Maka Davis from OKFM. You named several institutions, like the First Street Training Institute, the Law Reform Commission, the National Disaster Management Agency, and a lot more, National Food Assistance Authority, and all of that.
Right.
And you criticize why they're giving them money. So if you are president, what will you do with these institutions?
So if our president on day one, about 37, I will increase it to 50. This is what I'm going to do. We're not going to remove the name from the payroll because we don't have the power to as president, but we have the power to defund them. So that means you're going to see in the budget, National Food Assistance Agency, but we pay them for about 24 months. So if you work there, we pay you for about 24 months while we transition you to the private sector. So any other money we give you for any other support, we take that away. We want to pay you and we transition. In that way, we save millions of dollars, and we can do the private-public sector arrangement where we take that money, give it to the central bank, give it to the commercial bank. We take some of that money, invest in housing. Instead of having a national housing authority, we invest it into housing so you can take money, or we can invest it into, we can let somebody take $2, $3, $4, $5 million, build a couple of units, sell it to you, and you can also get refunded. And in our way, you see, we start creating capacitation. We take another quantity of money, invest it into industry. One of my key things I want to look at is agriculture. I'm not interested in an agricultural development bank. It's never worked. The last president of the development bank was Wilson Tappert. Some of you that are much older. We funded that thing for years. It didn't happen. How do you expect a man from Bonkoniman to come and fill up paper to be up to get loan from the bank? So I want to be able to fund private companies through the commercial arrangement that will go to your farm. You don't have to go through any government process. We'll come to your farm. What we're going to do is we're going to clear the land for you. What we're going to do, clear the land for you. That's one. We give you free ceilings, like it's done in Mexico and other countries. Then we buy the use from you. So the poorest of the poor guy doesn't have to fill up any paper. And what happened? Now is service. That would be the core of my program, because as a businessman, I want to empower people well, so that this tide of people coming to Monserrato can stop. So in your villages, your town, now you will have life, you will have opportunities. Then it reduces our import. That's why I talk about import. It reduces our import, and now we can begin to export and create wealth.
My name is Lincoln Peter, Mr. Freeman. Thank you very much for your comprehensive analysis of the 2026 draft national budget that is currently before the National Legislature for scrutiny. I have just one question. You talk about the budget going to 1.2 billion based on the anticipated fund from the Arsenal Meta deal. And you also spoke about the asset recovery.
Right.
Anticipated 10 million. With
Right.
all of these things that have been anticipated within the projection, do you see the budget being achievable, or will there be another deficit?
Oh, there will always be deficit. And they hide these deficits because there is no budget assessment report, the budget performance report. And if the legislature was not as collaborative in the exploitation of our country, then they would demand those things. All right. And then what we will have a system where these things are analyzed. All right. And then it will change our outlook. So you can't build your family based on an anticipated inflow. Like I said, you can't deprive your children of school fees, food, and say, my uncle said he will send $200. So the other $200 that I've collected, give me chance, let me buy these shoes and let me buy a t-shirt, and those kinds of things. So yes, we anticipate a shortfall. You can put in the budget these kinds of anticipation. That's why they themselves call it contingent. But even the contingent that you put there, you have allotted it to key sectors. Even the $100 and something million they want to use for public works is also coming out of this contingent. So that means that's why they're trying to run some $300 and something million deal for road construction, when in fact they can change that. In fact, if I was president, we'd change that. And I'll give you a whole outlook on borrowing. I'll tell you what, Japan is one of the highly indebted countries in the world. Japan. But you know why Japan doesn't have an issue? Japan borrowed the money domestically, not from banks, but for people through a stock market. Why haven't we developed a stock market? Maybe some medicine man somewhere say we can't develop it, we don't have the expertise, when those things can be developed in about a year.
My name is Gibson G from Punch FM, the Liberian investigator. Honorable Freeman, how will you describe this budget in just 3 words?
In just 3 words, I would say this budget favors the government. It favors Boycott, it favors those in government, and there's nothing in there for the people. So this budget is just a waste of our time. So anybody anticipating that we're going to get anything from this budget is wasting our time. Look up, and that's why you see it's so terrible. In other countries, the government buys, the government does major public things, and the president doesn't get in buses. It's a shame. The only thing you can give is 15 pickups to DEA. After the whole country rose up against drugs, the EPS budget is bigger than the DEA budget. So you can see where the seriousness is. Boyka said, you know what, I'm going to protect myself because I'm building a $10 million property in 4 years. So I need to protect myself. So DEA will give you 15 pickup, will bring all the media people. And these boys from the Ministry of Education that just talked on to the speaker round of the mouth, we'll bring them to also talk about it. Then we're getting 15 buses. As president, I'm not going to ride in a bus. And that's just shameful. Under the United Party government, we got the first red light under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to Johnson Street. You remember? It was Boyka who went to to dedicate dedicate red lead, something that nobody's supposed to dedicate. Today in the whole country, I think we got about 5 red leads that people even disrespect the red lead because they're not used to the culture. I can see red lead to, Johnson Street. Then I go all the way to Pennsylvania, I see another red lead. Are you crazy? How much for red lead? We're not serious in this country, boss man. We're not serious. And when we keep putting these Unity Party people in government, that's what's going to happen. These guys can talk. In fact, these guys are able to sell ice baths to the Eskimos. Even when you're in a cold region and you don't need ice baths, these guys will say, you need to buy the ice bath. They can talk. These boys can talk, but they bring nothing to the table. Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Freeman, I'm your virus fifth in final report for DNS Liberia. You being a Liberia businessman who understands the problems of Liberians, you understand the economy of Liberians, you being in the business sector. Many Liberians are wanting to know what are you doing at the moment in order to less burden the government since you are wanting to become a president.
We're doing quite a lot. I think just yesterday you saw we offered 500 students registration fee at University of Liberia. That's the range. We're waiting for the students to show up so we can pay that. We're coming off another big news, and I don't want to preempt that. But I think we mentioned now, so I can do that. We also, for the first time in this country, setting up. You see the people you call petty traders that are on the streets. What we're doing is we've gotten 2 buildings for them, and for the first time, we're going to put them in a building. Like it's done in Sierra Leone, like it's done in China, like it's done in other parts of the world. We're going to put them in a building and we're going to fix that building up so they will be organized. You have a floor where you can go and people fix their hair. You have another floor, you go, people sell this. Within buildings, they wouldn't be on the streets anymore. Then further to that, we want to invest $1 million annually. Our goal is to transition them. We're not giving it to them for free. We want to bring in the goods, so we give it to them, right? They sell and they will be able to pay back. Here's the deal. Right now, they are buying it from the stores, and the stores are competing with them. So we want to make sure we bring in those things, and we give it to them. We give it to them at a much lower price. They will be able to sell, and what will happen? They will develop capacity. So like you see down Waterside, you see 3 full-out men in one store. Sometimes one store is owned by 3 men. We want to help them to get in 3 people in one store, and then over time, they will begin to spread. You notice Waterside used to be Lebanese. Now it's fuller. That's how they've done it. We want to use that same methodology and transition them. So we're working on that front. We also have a project that we're rolling out regarding internet to schools. We want to put an internet device on a university campus. We're starting with Monserrato first. We'll go to Buchanan next. So we want to put what they call a Starlink device on every university campus within Monserrato County. That's going to be rolled out by next week as well. So all of these things we're doing, coupled with the fact that many other projects, you are just in Slipway, I think, we're there, we ran that project, we're just in, what's the place name, number 5, we're running another project in number 1. Got multiple projects that we're doing, but we can't do all because we don't control the national economy. So we're hoping that come 2029, we are giving that opportunity for the first time to redirect the focus of our country to enable the outcome that needs to be realized.
Okay, so my name is Darius Doe from Spoon. If you look at the budget, agriculture budget have dropped, and the arrest agenda talks about agriculture. But more to that, we see the signature bonus of ArcelorMittal. It is on a contingent revenue.
Right.
Do you think when the president talks about agriculture in the arrest agenda, he's realistic about that?
He's not. And more precise, under my administration, you're not going to have a Ministry of Agriculture. And the reason is simple. You don't need to have, you see, we look at these things from the standpoint of education. We need to look at it from a realistic standpoint. Like I told you, the agriculture budget, I think, is about 1 point something million or 3 point something million. I've forgotten the figure. I close the budget now. But think about it, Busman. If we took one country as a prototype, and we set up a company, that company is not going to be owned by government. We take a few people and they form a company called John Brown Incorporated. We invest $3 million, and what we do with the $3 million, we're going to buy equipment, we're going to build warehouses, we're going to buy trucks. Then we go to the farmers and clear the land, and we give them free seedings. Do you know what that's going to do for that county in terms of agriculture? It's going to change the landscape. It's going to change everything for that county. But we zero in everything to a bureaucratic infrastructure, and that hurts us in every respect. And that's why we need a new beginning in our country, a new beginning where we can refocus. The way we've done it is very wrong and is very bad. Thank you, and I think we're going to now link to the station so other people can have an opportunity to participate. It's been a pleasure talking to you.